we've got like 3 pieces of trim left to install on the trailer, and so I've got an idea how we're going to do that. 3 pieces. So we need to get something cut and put in place so we can get this thing done. So stick around, you'll see how we do that. Alright, so to start with, we do have our 3M Super Duty tape around all of our edges here, underneath this trim here, which is just setting in place. And so we are ready to start measuring to cut our trim. So for this, we're going to have 3 measurements. From here, we're going to measure down to the bottom of this trim, and then we'll measure overall until the edge of that trim, and then we'll measure from that trim over to our seam. That way we'll start our bend so we can get this nice little curve. Then we'll worry about getting it all lined up in here. So let's take some measurements, and then we'll set up our trim, and we're going to have to do a little cutting on the table saw to get that to fit, because here's a little piece of trim that I have. This is going to be setting on here, and we don't want this overhanging so much, because if we do, our drawers won't open. So instead of modifying all my drawers, we're just going to modify our trim. So we're going to cut this and just take off this little edge right here. So it'll set on there, and this side will be gone, because the seal that we're going to put on here, we won't need that edge. And we're going to run that down. It's going to come about right here, and then we're going to run that seal across this way. Then this will be a full piece, and then we'll be able to use that little trim piece that goes inside to cover up our screw holes. So let's drop some measurements, set up our table saw, start cutting. Alright, so measurement number 1, we're going to get the overall length. So we're going to butt our tape measure, my flexible tape measure, right up under against the hurricane hinge. We want that flush, and then we're just going to bring it right on around. (66.5 inches). Measurement number 1. Measurement number 2 is going to be to the bottom edge of our trim here on this part. 47.25. Then from this bottom trim over to the edge or our seam, and I believe that was 8.25 inches. Those are the measurements we're going to need. So now we can start cutting some steel. Actually, let's cut some aluminum instead. Pretend it's steel. So our first measurement, 66.5 inches. Alright, now we have both pieces trimmed. So we just took off this other side, so we had a edge on here. We just took that edge off and we brought it down and trimmed it sort of like that. And let's see if I can do this. How this is going to fit is it's going to fit right up in here, like so, and lay it along that edge. And that's where we'll put our seal. Now what we need to do is get it bent from here all the way around. So we know that this, from this edge to our seam, is 8 1/4 inches. So we're going to get out our little template and some clamps, and we're going to bend this curve, just a slight curve right in here. Then we'll be able to start fastening it on and do a little finishing touches, make sure the edges are nice and flush, and we'll get this piece on. Once all the trim is installed on both sides, then we can peel everything back off, put our sealant on, screw it down, fasten it for good, and clean up the edges. We still have a lot of trimming to do on our tape and make those edges look real purty like. So let's get our template out. We'll get these little edges here bent, and then we'll test fit it. Now, as a side note, just so you know, I put a piece of wood alongside the trailer, and I marked a line all the way around that wood and marked it where the seam is. And so I made myself a corner. This represents the side of the trailer. Then I put a line where the seam is, and we know our measurement is 8 1/4, so here is our line, and we are going to line that up on our template here. Then we're going to clamp it in place and bend this around this edge, and once that's done to both pieces, then we can get those installed on the trailer. So the sun is going down, so we don't have much time, and it's supposed to rain for the next 4 days, so we need to get that bent. So let's get set up and bend those pieces. And now we have a nice kink-free bend that goes around our template. Then once we put it on the trailer, then we'll take this section and we'll start bending that around to the top edge. So we have one more side to do. We'll take these clamps off, take a look at that, and then we'll get that other side bent. Alright, so here we go. We're going to start here at the top. Put it in place. And I'm going to be using number 4 by 5/8 inch screws, tiny little things. I just want to get things in position as I bend things around. Once we get it around the bottom and everything looks good, then we'll take everything off, put our sealant down, use some longer screws, and get this fastened permanently. So let's see if we can't get this on here. Now at this point, since we got a few screws in there, we want to just gently massage this down. Let it take that bend, nice and easy. Oh yeah, oh yeah, it's gonna look good. Alright, let's finish getting some more fasteners on that. Alright, now I am about as far as I can go because I need to pull it off and do just a little bit of trimming. But we have a nice curve coming around. We get to here where we made our notch, test fit, and we're going to have to do a little trimming on this section right here, cut it down a little bit. Then as we bring it around and it draws in, then it made it a little longer, so we'll have to take a little bit off the back edge here. Then it should fit real nice. So let's pull it off. We'll get it sanded. We'll test fit one more time. Then I think we can stick it permanently. So let me pull this off. We'll get these things trimmed up and we'll put it back in place. Take a look at it, make sure our holes are drilled, and okay, this side will be done. Alright, so we have one side on. So we've got a nice curve going around and nice seam. Sweet. And then our little deal here, that fits in there nice and snug like. Get that down there. Clean that goo up here in a little bit. And then make sure our edge is nice and clean. So that's almost ready for some seal. Alright, so let me take care of the other side. Then we'll worry about this trim going across here. And then we'll put the seal on and see how well it closes on that hatch. Alright, this is where we're at so far. We have both sides installed and sealed. Now we're going to attach this front piece here, or back piece, however you want to look at it. So it's cut to size. I just need to pre-drill some holes, put the sealant on, and then get it in place. And I think it's going to fit really well. And then our trim, our seal, is going to come down here, and then it'll come over here, and then we've got some vinyl insert that we're going to wrap all the way around in one piece on both sides. So let's get this piece attached, and then I think we can run some seal around that and test it. Hopefully hopefully it works. Now that everything's sealed, let's put the screws into it. Alright, so we've got everything installed, so now we're ready to install the seal. So the seal that I purchased, I got from Vintage Technologies, is I think they might call that a D seal, but anyway, it's about 5/8 of an inch wide, and we're going to start here on the very top, get that tucked up under there, and then we'll just start running it down and get it stuck. Take it down, we'll take it across on both sides, and we'll close that hatch and see what it looks like. Now, I know it's going to be very tight, and this is actually going to get smashed, and that's probably not the preferred seal that you want. But the trim that I'm using, well, I should have got a different seal is what I'm saying. So they do make a different type of trim. It's a thinner material, lays flatter, and you could probably get away with that and using the seal. But if not, down the road I'll just change the seal or put it on the hatch itself and call it good. Main thing is just trying to keep all the water out. So let's get this installed. Now this does have an adhesive backing, so we're going to pull that off, and we're going to start right up here on the top. Get it close to our edge that we can, get as far back as we can. it sealed down. And one side on. So it does sit pretty proud, and it should compress pretty good all the way down. And then we dropped it just below here, and then our vinyl insert will come up and meet that. So we'll get the other side done, and then we'll run across piece across here, and then we'll take a look at it. Alright, we have our hatch pretty much sealed up. So we do have our gasket material on both sides and on the bottom. And here in a second I'll show you what I did to the hatch itself to make sure that we get things sealed up. We'll close it up, take a look at it, and show you a little issue that I have. But other than that, I think it's going to seal up pretty good. Then we can take care of the rest of the trailer. Alright, so we do have all of our trim attached, sealed, everything fastened down. We've got a nice trim going around here, so everything lined up and worked pretty good. Then we installed our gasket material here on the top of this aluminum trim, and also here on the bottom section, and of course on the other side. Then for the hatch itself, I added an extra gasketing material. And this is fairly small, and it's a silicone type gasket, and it's mainly for dust proofing, but I just put it here along the edge, and as you can see it just barely touches about 1/4 of an inch on this gasket here when closed. So I run that all the way across the top and all the way across the bottom, which I don't think this really serves much purpose. It doesn't touch anything here on the bottom, but this should eliminate some dust coming in, if anything, and of course on the other side as well. So like I said, about 1/4 of an inch, and it'll run right along this edge. So let's close the hatch. We'll take a look at how it seals, and then we'll talk about what we have next. Now, because of the style of trim that I'm using, which is a pretty heavy-duty deal for this lid, it's fairly tight here at the top, which I knew it would be because this is pretty thick material. Like I said, you could use a lighter material or a thinner material and you won't have such an issue. Then as it comes down along the side, then you have a little bit of a larger gap that would be actually a normal gap, and but it'll press in once we install our lock, get that closed up. So that's that side, and then on this side as well, of course it's pretty tight here at the top, and then as you roll around you get down here at the bottom, and same thing as the other side. But it is sealed, and that will keep the water out, so that's the main purpose. Now, because it is tight here and I have a little bit wider gap here at the bottom, there's several options you can do. One, you can change out the trim, which I'm not going to do because I like how everything looks the same all the way around, and so I'm going to be sticking with that. Option 2 would be to take the hurricane hinge and add a spacer underneath of 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, which will raise this whole section up and relax that here on the top. Now that is an option, but I'm not going to do that because this is down pretty secure, and I have a feeling that if I tried to take it off, I might damage the hinge and I'd have to replace it. But that is an option. So my third option was to add the extra gasketing on the inside, which now rests on the gasketing that I put on my trim, and it seals up pretty good. Let's see if I can get a shot of the bottom here. So under the bottom for the hinge itself, it seals right against that gasketing material. So we are in like Flynn as far as sealing the hatch. There is one more little trick up my sleeve that I will be adding to the surety, or my peace of mind, to make sure that water doesn't intrude into the galley area. So our next task is, all of our trim has been sealed. I replaced all of the little 9/16 inch truss head screws that I used to temporarily fasten everything down with, and I used 1 1/4 inch. Actually, I used 1 inch, but I ran out, so I had to switch over to the 1 1/4 inch, and that really sucked things down. It's real tight and forms really well, and we are good to go. So we are ready to start installing our vinyl trim. We're going to start here at the top, and we're going to work our way all the way around and come back here to the bottom section right here. So we need to get those two pieces on both sides here, and we're pretty close done with all the trim. So let's get that vinyl out and start putting it on. So we're going to start here on the trim here on the top, right next to the hurricane hinge. We're going to start here and work our way all the way around to the bottom on the back. And for that, I purchased a 50-foot roll of the vinyl trim insert. From here all the way around the trailer back to this spot, the circumference of the side of the trailer is about a little over 20 feet. So I have a 50-foot roll. That's enough to do both sides and the hurricane hinge. So let's get started. Alright, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out, which no big surprise here. I mean, it's just a insert over top of our aluminum trim. So we got that running all the way around the top, in the front, and also on the bottom. And it runs all the way back, around our back corner, and we stop just shy of our rubber trim here. So I think that's going to look pretty good and function just as well. Alright, let me get the other side hooked up, and then talk about what's next. And there we are. So we have our inserts wrapped all the way around, top and bottom, both sides. And I also installed the insert across the top of the hinge. Now for these areas that are left open, you have 2 on each side, 2 on each side, and of course here on the bottom you also have 2 on each side. I will end up getting some black ProFlex. We'll lift this up, shoot a gob in there, press it down, and clean everything up. That way it seals pretty tight. So we got a lot done. That trim is on, pieces are on the back, We've got our gasketing in place, inserts installed. I could pull this outside and not worry about leaks now. Well, I think that's going to do it for this video. I got a lot done with the trim and all the gasketing and inserts and stuff, and it was a little tedious trimming everything to get it to fit and bending it around and getting things fastened on, but nonetheless it's installed, so we're well on our way. A couple things we still need to do. We got a couple of trim pieces that we need to put on the bottom over our seams, and we also have one trim piece left for the front where the diamond plate meets the Filon. We'll get those done, and then we still have to trim off all this excess tape on the side of the trailer, and it should go fairly smooth. Stuff sticks pretty good, so but it comes off. Yeah, it comes off, we'll just say that. Alright, so if you haven't already, give the video a thumbs up. Please do subscribe and hit that bell notification for the next videos coming up, because pretty soon we're going to be done, and then we're going to talk about materials, and we'll talk about costs and all that good stuff that everybody wants to know. How much does it cost? Well, it's not cheap if you do it the way I did it, but it's not as expensive as buying one. And then you get the satisfaction of knowing that you accomplished something. Alright, with that, I want to say thanks for watching, thanks for putting up with all my jibber jabber, and hope you enjoyed the video. And until next time, as always, please do stay tuned.